the agenda, elevating the issues. And from here, we'll see various actors coming together and resolving this issue, which will not be resolved overnight.
Asked about political conflicts having an impact on economic growth, Kasim says these issues cannot be ignored as they somehow bring about uncertainty.
We cannot ignore the impact of these conflicts on the economies. So our role as the finance track is to kind of say there are a few conflicts, there are wars going on, there's uncertainty from tariff policies. Our role is to kind of highlight how these impact on the prospects of the global economy and to kind of send a signal to the politicians about how this should be fixed, because the consequences of these not being ratified could be dire in a world where growth has slowed down anyway. And as you know, South Africa's growth is partly dependent on domestic factors, but also the global economic condition.
The G20 represents about 85% of the world's output, and this organization is consensus-driven when nothing is binding, but provides a unique forum for coordination. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Africa means business. Tune into Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni for the future of the African economy. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is exactly 11 minutes after 4 p.m. Central African Time. Kenya's Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority has announced an increase in the maximum wholesale and retail prices for petroleum products. A litre of petrol has increased by 70 cents, that's 70 US cents, to $1 44 cents. Diesel is up by 67 US cents to $1.33, while kerosene increased by 75 US cents to $1.21 per litre. It has been reported that this is the highest increase since September 2023. The increased fuel prices are likely to lead to higher transportation and energy costs across Kenya. For more on this, we are joined this afternoon by our correspondent in Kenya, Alex Kairi, and he will be joining us shortly to unpack the reasons behind this rather steep increase. We do know that geopolitically, the instability has impacted the price of petroleum and fuel around the globe. Also coming up this afternoon, we'll be focusing on the Manufacturing Indaba, which is an annual conference and exhibition. This year, it is in Johannesburg, South Africa. We'll look at the manufacturing plants, production of drugs, etc. And also the Indaba is in Zambia as well. We'll be looking at Zambia, which is one of the countries that is present at the Indaba this year. That coming up within this half hour. Going back now to the first story that we'll be focusing on, which is the fuel prices and the increase in Kenya. Our correspondent in Kenya, Alex Kairi, joins us. Alex, good to have you with us. Now, we do understand that the price jump in petroleum products is linked to the Israel-Iran escalation. How much is this costing Kenya to actually import these products? Welcome.
Thank you very much. I think it's just fair to set the record straight. If you look at CNN reports and all these international media reports, it's been almost 2 weeks after Israel ended its conflict with Iran, and the prices of oil internationally have dropped marginally. But we are seeing the same here, the opposite here in the country, and it's really making everyone wonder, because it has actually never been cheap to import oil into the country as per the agreements that Kenya had with these three Gulf states, which is Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and United Arab Emirates. The price of oil internationally, as per our imports, as per that agreement, has always been between $84 per barrel and also around $76 to $78 per barrel. So it has always been a very expensive effort to do that, or since that deal was signed between the three governments and the government of Kenya. So the issue of Israel-Iran conflict does not wash, and so many people are raising that issue here because of the current situation in the country politically, and they're feeling like the government is just fleecing companies and basically manufacturers and motorists in the country.
So are you saying that geopolitics is not as huge a factor as it is said to be?
It is not. Actually, we have been importing oil at premium prices since that deal was signed under the Uhuru Kenyatta government, and recently it was actually extended to 2027. So it is nothing to do with the geopolitics or the conflicts in the Middle East. It is actually because we are paying our oil rather later. We are importing our oil on credit, so we pay premium based on that fact that we pay actually around 6 months after importing and utilizing the fuel in the country.
Let's look at this price escalation over the past few years. This is the largest increase since September 2023. How does this compare to the previous price hikes for petroleum in the country?
If you compare the current prices, which is around 185 shillings per litre for petrol and 166 shillings for diesel, it is slightly lower than what we had witnessed under the Uhuru Kenyatta government pre-COVID period. I remember the price of petrol had risen up to 205 shillings in 2019, 2018. And then it came down after the president imposed a ban on fuel prices. Actually, he reduced it further to around 160 shillings because of the COVID situation in the country. But the price has been escalating since then after the restrictions were lifted. The price has been steadily rising, and after Ruto took over, he also managed actually to stabilize the prices. But in the recent past, after the protests that happened from last year, prices have been rising steadily, and many are actually tying this to the fact that he is creating a crisis, then benefiting from it by letting us actually focus on one thing as he does another. Just like we saw recently when the protest happened in July 7. We saw, as people were focusing on the killings, we saw the new electoral body being sworn in, which was against the law because there was a freeze on the same by our local court. So this has actually got nothing to do with the geopolitics and the conflicts in the Middle East. It has certainly much to do with the policies and the government deal that it entered into with those three countries that I mentioned. That's Abu Dhabi, UAE, and also Saudi Arabia.
From the proposition that you're putting forward, it sounds like there is no end in sight, and that there will continue to be escalation of prices as far as petroleum is concerned. What has been the reaction of activist groups on the ground? What has been the reaction of business and citizens alike?
Anger and actually frustration. Many actually in today's media houses are questioning the rationale behind raising the cost, because we are already buying this oil at a huge price, expensive price, and they do not understand why. However, you need to realize that in Kenya, the cost of fuel is actually escalated by the levies and taxes imposed, or the same after import. If you look at the price of oil in the country, that at the landing cost, it's around 76 shillings, actually less than 100 shillings. But the levies and other taxes make the whole liter cost over 181 shillings, which is quite high. So it's not about the cost of fuel per se, but it's about the tax regime that we have in this country that is actually making everyone so angry and frustrated, which is actually leading to so many companies actually scaling down and leaving the country altogether.
That almost doubles the import cost after putting the levies and taxes in place. Have there been efforts to review or revise these taxes to make petroleum more affordable?
Not really. What happens is that whenever oil prices rise at that scale, whenever there is some complaints and maybe a backlash from the members of the public, In the next review, maybe they'll reduce it by around 100 or 1 shilling, 2 shillings, and then we move on with life. But so far, it is a very frustrating thing for investors and even for anybody else in the country, because a high cost of fuel means that everything else is going to definitely double in terms of cost because of the cost of production. There is so far no plans to reduce this, because Kenya's other options for raising funds to run the government have marginally shrunk due to the corruption and the fact that so many people are now jobless and other companies are leaving the country. So the only other big option is, of course, leaving the fuel that we import in the country.
Alex Kairi, we thank you very much for your insight, as well as, putting all of this into perspective as far as the reasons behind these very steep petroleum increases in Kenya. We thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's our correspondent in Kenya, Alex Kairi, and he takes us to exactly 20 minutes after 4 p.m. Do stay with us. This is Africa in Business.
In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa in Business. Africa in Business delivers key insights and real-time updates on Africa's growing markets with Thami Ngubeni. The African Perspective on Channel Africa.
Channel Africa.
Yes, indeed. It is Channel Africa, Africa in Business. Now, South Africa's Automotive Business Council, NAMSA, has raised the alarm over escalating U.S. tariffs, warning that the 25% levy on vehicle exports, which took effect in April and is set to climb to 30% in August, could push South Africa's auto industry into a full-blown socio-economic crisis. The Eastern Cape's key automotive hubs, including East London, risk becoming ghost towns as production slows and jobs are threatened. Adding to the uncertainty, the future of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, remains unclear. NAMSA's chief economist, Dr. Paulina Mamokgobo, says 65% of cars produced in South Africa are for export.
It's important to acknowledge that it is a significantly export-led industry, meaning that of what we produce, 65% of that is actually channeled for the export market. So you can imagine when we talk about the immediate impact, the conversation then becomes that with these tariffs, especially in the US market, it means that when we are hit with such tariffs already, that means losing the potential access or competitiveness in that particular market. So the nature of the automotive industry in South Africa is that it is clustered in particular regions. So I'll give an example. In Gauteng, we would have 3 OEMs, Ford, Nissan, and BMW. In the Eastern Cape, we have VW, Isuzu, and we've got Mercedes-Benz, and then we've got the likes of Toyota and KZN. What this then does is that the clustered nature of this, we need to understand that these continue to anchor economic activities in those particular regions or those particular towns. So if we lose a market access in the US, for example, owing to these tariffs, this automatically will impact in terms of production, because our production is always linked to export, like I said, with an export-led industry. Now, there are ripple effects because it does not just hit production in terms of the OEMs, but it also impacts the value chain. That is suppliers that continue to supply to these OEMs, and of course, other economic activities that are trickled by the existence of these OEMs in those markets. So our concern is that loss of market access, then we will see the ripple effect domestically, and likely, like we said, and also in our press release, that we don't want to see these economic hubs in South Africa becoming ghost towns, because we have seen our OEMs actually anchoring those industries or those towns for the longest of time.
That was NAMSA Chief Economist, Dr. Paulina Mamu Khobo, taking us to exactly 24 minutes after 4 p.m.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
From markets to innovation. From markets to innovation. Africa in Business with Thami Ngubeni covers it all. With Africa's future in focus, Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Africa in Business on Channel Africa as we take a look at the leading stories in and impacting the African continent. It's gone exactly 25 minutes after 4 p.m. We turn our focus now to the Manufacturing Indaba 2025 conference and exhibition. It is currently underway in Johannesburg, South Africa. It is an annual event dedicated to driving Africa's re-industrialization. And how do they do this? Well, by fostering local manufacturing, making sure that leaders get connected and stay connected, as well as empowering businesses to grow and to create jobs. Now, among the countries that are present at the Indaba this year is Zambia, which has recently signed a joint venture with one of India's largest pharmaceutical companies, Akums Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited, to set up a manufacturing plant as well as to start the production of about 150 drugs locally. Joining us this afternoon is the head of investments for mining and energy at the Industrial Development Corporation in Zambia, Mr. Mulumba Luatula. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to Africa in Business.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
So give us your reflections of the Manufacturing Indaba 2025 thus far. It is, as I said in my introduction, a platform for leaders, for manufacturers to come together, knowledge sharing, as well as seeing what the best practices are around the globe. What have been your reflections?
I think so far it's been quite educating and enlightening. There's a lot of discussions, obviously, on intra-African trade and how we can utilize and leverage regional connections and regional capacities to be able to bring about a manufacturing revolution on the continent. So far this morning's sessions were pretty good. I spoke on a panel effectively looking at building resilience into African manufacturing entities, as well as how we go about with succession planning, just so that we ensure that a lot of our companies are also sustainable and also set up for the long haul.
If you could give us a bit of overview of Zambia's manufacturing capacity, where the opportunities lie, and which sectors or which products rather that you manufacture.
Sure. So Zambia's manufacturing industry is still nascent, although it's been growing as well year on year. We have manufacturing as a priority sector in the country, obviously, given the fact that manufacturing creates jobs and local manufacturing then retains those jobs internally. So in terms of what we're looking at, there are quite a number of initiatives that government has put in place. There are incentives that investors have also been set up to attract investors. We have special economic zones that are also fostering a lot of that manufacturing. I know earlier you were referring to the signing of an agreement with an Indian firm, effectively looking at how the country can leverage its location, right? We are, as we like to call ourselves nowadays, land-linked. We've got 8 neighboring countries plus 1, given that we also have access to the Great Lakes region going up north.
Talking about the joint ventures that have been signed with India, they do stretch across mining and manufacturing sectors. Can you take us through some of these deals and how Zambia stands to benefit?
Sure thing. So I think you might have heard that we have an aspiration to effectively be able to produce up to 3 million metric tons of copper over the ensuing years. Given that aspiration, the country is obviously looking to not only ensure that there's energy supply for that. So we're setting up a number of solar PV plants. And then in the manufacturing space, we're also partnering with the likes of the Indian firms. But also on the mining side of things, we're expanding our exploration. For instance, under Industrial Resources Limited, we have about 40 plus licenses that have been earmarked for co-development with international and local mining entities. We're looking to ensure that over the coming years, we double output when it comes to our copper production. And that can only begin really by putting things in place. And we've started along that journey. And we hope over the next 5 to 10 years, we should start seeing the results coming to fruition.
You will know about the 50% increase in copper imports from the United States. How does that impact your plans as Zambia?
So I think it's also dependent on the sort of partnerships that we're striking, right? We do have partnerships with companies coming from the West, and also partnerships with companies coming out of the East. So at the moment, Zambia is trying to leverage and ensure that we're active participants in this energy transition. And as you likely know, copper is a huge component when it comes to the energy transition, not only in the form of its input into EV vehicles, but also all the other downstream areas that copper is also utilized in. So as a country, we're positioning ourselves to be a top producer, but then not only to be a producer of raw materials, but also to begin to value add in country and at least set up industries that will then be able to do that on our behalf.
As we conclude this afternoon, there is the partnership agreement that was signed with Mercuria Energy Group. How does that benefit the copper mines and the copper miners in Zambia?
So the partnership with Mercuria is effectively to assist not only the country in terms of its trading capacity. For a very long time, Zambia has been a producer of copper. However, there hasn't been that active participation when it comes to trading of our metals, right? So the partnership with Mercuria is not only bringing capacity building, but technology transfer, as well as enabling us as a country to be able to participate in a larger part of the value chain, something that we haven't had in decades since the going away of Memaco, which was our metal marketing entity from back in the days. But we're reviving that capacity, given that as copper use obviously increases, given the energy transition, we need to ensure that we're also understanding the full value that we can also retain and obtain from our natural resource wealth.
Mr. Lumumba Luatula, we thank you very much for your insight and your time, and enjoy the rest of the manufacturing in Daba.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. He is the head of investments for mining and energy at the Industrial Development Corporation in Zambia. He takes us to exactly 4:30 p.m. Central African time. Let's head over now to the markets desk, where Chanduko Legeke is standing by with the latest market indicators.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
In your financial indicators this afternoon, $1 is trading at 17 Rand 90. In South Africa, in Botswana, it is trading at 13 Pula 20. In Namibia, it is trading at 17 Namibian dollars 90. And Zambian kwacha is trading at 23 kwacha 16 to the US dollar. In Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 549. In Ethiopia, it is trading at 137 birr 30. In Uganda, it is trading at 3,000 shilling 562. In Tanzania, it is trading at 2,000 shilling 598. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,527,000 naira. In Egypt, the dollar is trading at 49 Egyptian pound 644. In Tunisia, it is trading at 2 dinar 2 1.88, and in Algeria it is trading at 1.29,474. The Moroccan dirham is trading at 8,972 to the US dollar. In Angola, the dollar is trading at 912 kwanza, while the Congolese franc is trading at 2,866 to the US dollar. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,342 and platinum at $1,376 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $69.01 a barrel. For Channel Africa Business News, I am Nolutando Buthelezi.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you to Nolutando Buthelezi at the Economics Desk. Let's head over now for the latest in the business of sport with Figile Lingwate.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, Thami. We begin with football news with the business of sport. Kenya believes it is well prepared for the upcoming CHAN tournament, hosting alongside East African neighbors Uganda, Tanzania, and from the 1st to the 31st of August. Now, the Sports Cabinet Secretary, CS Salim Vura, has announced planned upgrades to Nyayo National Stadium for the AFCON 2027 post-CHAN. Vura has also promised the national football team a lucrative reward should they succeed in the African Nations Championship, that is CHAN. The CS revealed that he had organized a meeting to announce the irresistible reward for Harambee Stars. He says he recently announced an improved reward package for the athletes and says very soon he will convene a meeting before CHAN to announce the package for Harambee Stars. Mvurwa says they are looking at the facilities as well ahead of the tournament.
Next week we will take over the other training grounds, and including Nyayo on Wednesday next week. We'll be able now to allow the local organizing committee to do other things in those facilities. But now we are happy with the preparations. I want to now tell Kenyans that CHAN is here. Let us take this opportunity to profile our country positively. Let us take the opportunity to profile our tourism, our diversity in our cultures, and the diversity of our potential as a country.
Football Kenya Federation FKF President Hussein Mohammed has also shown his appreciation for what the government has done to help host the successful upcoming tournament. Mohammed says Kenya's budget for hosting the 2025 African Nations Championship approximately is $13 million. This figure represents the hosting fees to be paid to the Confederation of African Football (CAF). Additionally, Kenya is investing in stadium renovations and other preparations with a total budget of $439 million allocated for CHAN and AFCON.
There are so many people who did not believe that we would be able to host this tournament, and it is here with us. We have done everything possible together with this government to ensure that we've given them everything they need to succeed.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Mvura has emphasized that CHAN will bring significant benefits to Kenya's football landscape and economy. Mvura further says the influx of fans and teams from across the globe will provide a boost to Kenya's economy while showcasing the country to the world. He says the government will continue to support the team.
On behalf of the government, I want to assure the technical bench and FKF and our national team that we will continue to support them so that they can deliver victory here in Nairobi on the 30th of August, where the finals will be played.
Now, rugby news. Zimbabwe President Emmerson Mnangagwa inspired the rugby national team, the Sables, with a $100,000 donation in a bid to defend their title in the ongoing Rugby Africa Cup tournament in Uganda. And the winner of the Rugby Africa Cup will earn Africa's sole ticket to the 2027 World Cup to be held in Australia. More rugby as we end. The Junior Springboks will play Old Foes New Zealand in the final in Rovingo on Saturday evening. South Africa recorded a 48-24 victory over Argentina in Viadana, Italy, to advance to the first World Rugby Under-20 Championship final in 11 years. The junior Boks don't receive financial gain from participating in international tournaments or winning them. However, the South African Rugby invests in the junior Boks, including their overseas participation in tournaments alongside other national teams. The overall budget for national teams, including the junior Boks, is reported to be close to $20 million in a specific year, with a significant portion allocated to the senior Boks. Additionally, there's mention of a players of national interest pool with a minimum salary for players partially funded through it. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Stay ahead with Africa in Business, where Thami Ngubeni unpacks your go-to source for Africa's economic trends and development.
It is exactly 4:40 p.m. Central African Time. Now, Brandscapers Africa will be hosting a 2-day Next Gen Impact Summit in Mpumalanga Province, that is in South Africa. The summit will focus on unlocking the next generation of entrepreneurs, of creators, as well as leaders, especially from the rural backgrounds and the township communities. The event will be taking place from the 16th to the 17th of July and will feature pitch battles, some startup showcases, as well as branding masterclasses on digital marketing and social media strategy sessions. For more on this, we joined on the line by lead strategist at Brandscapers Africa, Mvelo Ndlovu. A very good afternoon to you, Mvelo Ndlovu. Welcome to Africa in Business. Good to have you with us. My team tells me that you are on mute, so could you unmute yourself as we begin our conversation this afternoon? Welcome.
Hi, Thami, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for unmuting. Well, first of all, let's start here. Let's start here with an understanding, Mvelo, of the Next Gen Impact Summit. It is scheduled to be taking place from the 16th and the 17th, which is tomorrow, and until Thursday. What is this all about?
Yes. So in general terms, it's, from our side, we see a gap, especially in areas like Mpumalanga, your Limpopo, your Northern Cape. So usually most of those times in those areas, the young people that come from these areas, they don't have much opportunities to go by. So you'd find that the only opportunities that are here, it's only the mining industry. And for those that can't get into the mining industry, it's basically doomed for them, right? So for us, the Next Gen Mining Summit is for us to just come in to have those ecosystems where we bring different partners on board for these young people to get mentorship, to get different type of opportunities that they can latch on to also build their businesses beyond just looking into the mining sector. I mean, we have most of them that are within the beauty space, some are in the fashion space, in the art space as well. So from our side is to make sure that we build those ecosystems that can just push their businesses into a better space.
You have decided, and very intentionally so, to focus on the rural and township communities. Why is that?
So for us, we are young people that come from those very spaces. We grew up in the rural areas, so we know exactly the challenges that these young people are facing within these areas. So it does come from that understanding of, young people are getting to a space where they are a bit frustrated, when they can't get these opportunities. There's that frustration to say, what about us? When can we get those opportunities? So for us is we want to go back to these areas where, we essentially come from to also impact some of the knowledge that we have learned, some of the exposure that we have had, and also bring these other partners and corporates to these spaces as well, where they don't usually go to.
That's so true. And I'm just wondering, Velo, as I'm speaking to you, what is the objective here? Is the objective to empower rural and township youth in order to develop businesses within their communities, or is it to export them into the more metropolitan areas? Especially with young people, you find that they want to leave the rural areas and want to go to the cities. What is your objective here?
So what inspires us the most is to just see empowerment in those areas. I think if I can just pull one story as an example is, if we can have one business within Mpumalanga that comes to this summit, they get empowered and then they hire some other young people as well. So that's what we want to see. We want to see them grow within these spaces, but also for them to, even if there's other opportunities outside of Mpumalanga, they can tap in those areas as well. But most importantly is to see that how can these businesses also grow within Mpumalanga, hire young people in Mpumalanga, and also just expand beyond these spaces.
And how do people get in touch with you? Is it too late to become part of this expo, this Next Gen Impact Summit?
It is not too late. So anyone can still join in. They can still come. There's a phone number that they can still call. There is also an email. So on the phone number, it's 067 010 8809. And also we have an email, which is mcdonald.k at brandscapersafrica.com. So people can still come. I mean, we do have the door open for any other young people that can still come. We have most opportunities that are coming. We have pitching competitions that they can look out for, where they can win some exciting prizes. We have partners on board also that are bringing some of these cool ideas where they can also empower other young people. I mean, ABSA is also coming on board. They have exciting opportunities for these young people. We have been quite engaging with them in terms of how can they bring more value to these young people. And the team at Mpumalanga ABSA, they've been quite a great deal to us. I mean, the likes of Mr. Lunga, Mr. Gulelani as well. They've garnered those ideas in terms of how they can also come in with more than just talk. So from our side, we don't want to make it a talk show where people just come in, they talk, but there's something that these young people can live with after these 2 days.
So important, Velo, to have business supporting young entrepreneurs and giving them the A to Z of also managing their finances, starting and growing their businesses. Some of the masterclasses that will be hosted over the next 2 days, could you give us an example of the topics that will be covered and perhaps who those masterclasses are going to be conducted by?
Thank you. So we do have the CEO of NYDA, which is Ndomiso Kubega, who's going to speak about, youth leadership, youth businesses. We also have the likes of Professor Bonang Mohale, who's also going to touch on leadership. But beyond that, also we have speakers from other partners as well that, they will come from different assets as well, like your IDCs that will speak more on industrialization. We have your Take-A-Lot that will speak more on their marketplaces and how to commercialize business within the e-commerce space. So it's more of a practical thing where we have those masterclasses during those 2 days.
Well, wishing you all the best, Mvelo Ndlovu, for the Next Gen Impact Summit, which is taking place in Mpumalanga. As you said, rural and township communities also need to be developed. All the best with that.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Mvelo Ndlovu. He is the lead strategist at Brandscapers Africa. The Next Gen Impact Summit taking place in Mpumalanga Province, South Africa. It's gone exactly 4:46. This is Channel Africa.
Get the news, music, and lifestyle of Africa on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
South Africa's Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, has officially raised public versions of South Africa's national security strategy for 2024 to 2029, along with the National Intelligence Estimate for the years 2019 to 2024, as well as the corresponding national intelligence priorities. Describing it as a historic milestone in the country's democratic journey, the minister says this marks the first time that such key intelligence instruments are being made public in a structured and transparent manner. Channel Africa's business reporter, Innocent Samosa, has the details.
The release is a response to the recommendations of the 2018 High-Level Review Panel on the State Security Agency. The minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, says it signals a major shift in how the intelligence community engages with government, parliament, and the public.
National security considerations dictated that we cannot release the current version of the National Intelligence Estimate and the national intelligence priorities. They're supporting national intelligence priorities. Hence, we are publishing the national intelligence estimate covering the period of the 6th administration. This is the first time in the history of the Republic of South Africa that such instruments of national intelligence are being released in a manner that is both transparent and structured, while maintaining the required integrity for national security.
The minister took some time to explain why the budget and procurement remain confidential.
Raise the question of why the budgets of state security are kept secret. And let me give some few of the reasons. It's a national security issue because it prevents adversaries from gaining insight which will disclose what is spent on specific operational matters. So if we then put it out there, they will know what we are procuring because that is already known. It is also for operational security. Knowledge about our budget allocations can help the hostile states or people who are opposing us or non-state actors to deduce the scale, focus, and even geographic reach of our operations. So that on its own is the reasons why this budget is kept secret and must remain classified, because then on its own it threatens national security. And it's for that reason that we have improved the mechanism of transparency, sharing what we do in these public platforms, and also getting the IG cooperation, more cooperation with the IGI, Office of the IGI, and also the Auditor General.
While the Minister, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, defended the continued confidentiality of the intelligence budget and procurement processes, her remarks were met with criticism from several members of parliament, including representatives from the EFF, DA and Action SA, who argued that full accountability cannot exist without full disclosure.
We all know that minister after minister after minister has been seen to weaponize the SSA for their own gains while feeding in scores of unqualified family members. Fair's fair. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that this current minister has ever followed that particular tradition. But the very integrity of our entire criminal justice system is on trial as we speak. So here we are. After all that bluster, a minister at home, another ministerial salary being paid, many fingers are crossed that this will all blow over and that we will have lost interest. Within a year or more, we may or may not discover the truth.
And that the little intelligence capacity the state has is in fact captured by criminals who project themselves as leaders. The budget outcomes presented here today do not demonstrate clear appreciation of the priorities for ensuring the security of the state against both external and internal threats.
As the debate continues, this development raises important questions about the balance between national security and democratic oversight. For Channel Africa News, I am Innocent Semosa in Johannesburg.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix. Anaitwa Daniel Etienne Benson. Huyu alizaliwa mwaka 1997, ilikuwa Mei 14, na anajulikana kitaalamu kabisa kwa jina la muziki BNXN. Haya, ni mwanamuziki huyo, ni mwimbaji kutoka nchini Nigeria, mtunzi wa nyimbo na mtayarishaji wa record label. Ameshirikiana na Rema kwenye wimbo huu. Rema vile vile ni msanii kutoka huko nchini Nigeria. Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
Now, the second edition of the Africa Unlocked Conference took place in Cape Town, South Africa last week. This meeting gathered Africa's most influential business leaders, investors, policymakers, as well as entrepreneurs. And the theme for this year was Business Shaping Africa's Tomorrow, Building Legacies. Strengthening corporate governance in family businesses was among the key topics at this meeting. The session examined how financial institutions can help family enterprises build robust governance through structured financing and leadership advisory services. Thami Ngubeni compiled this report.
Standard Bank invited clients from all parts of the African continent from across various sectors to take part in the second edition of the Africa Unlocked conference. Topics discussed at this event focused on advancing Africa's economic sovereignty and the role family businesses play in the economy, among others. Family businesses drive Africa's economy, creating jobs and generating wealth. However, challenges like succession planning, financial transparency, and management often impact their sustainability. During this discussion, experts shared strategies to merge tradition with modern governance, ensuring growth and stability for future generations. Keval Mehta, Executive Director at the Clearwater Group, spoke on the complexities of family businesses and how the family's teaching of younger generations can impact the business for generations.
I think the success around the halls is multi-generational. The complexity around family business and governance is really, once you get beyond, say, the first, second, and third, is you now have individuals that are no longer involved in the business. You have shareholders, so you have the delineation of responsibility between operators and shareholders. And in some cases, there may be no family members that are involved from an operational perspective. But how do you have alignment on strategy, ethics, and values, and that essentially governs the way in which you report and the way that you operate and that strategy going forward? And effectively, a lot of that boils down from a very early age. And so the way in which you behave as an elder has a reflection on the youth, and the way that you bring them up and the way that you converse and set those expectations has a material impact on the involvement around governance going forward.
Meanwhile, Guido Giachetti, Executive Chairman of the RDC Property Group, spoke on the relationship between the family and shareholders in steering the business.
The family can only do it through two avenues: the mission, the vision for the business, and the purpose. And that is really what we are imparting to our management, saying this is our purpose. And in our case, it is to develop, to invest in strategic assets that add value to the communities. It's a very strong community value. And that community goes to shareholders and to the wider community in the country. And I was yesterday when the Vice President of Botswana recognized our contribution to the country, because we've managed to now grow to a strong Botswana. 75% of our assets of one of the listed companies that was created with very little is now outside of the country and operates in many jurisdictions. So I think the family is really there to derive the purpose and the vision. And then it's up to management to make sure that they follow that.
Stefan Viljoen, Head of Family Office Wealth and Investments at Standard Bank, highlighted the major role family-owned businesses play in Nigeria's economy.
Family-owned businesses, from multi-billion naira companies to street vendors, contribute to 50% of the GDP of Nigeria. They also employ 80% of the workforce. So it's a massive number in terms of the catalyst for economic growth for the nation.
For Channel Africa News, I am Thami Ngubeni in Johannesburg.
It is exactly 4:57 Central African Time as we bring Africa in Business to a close for this day and usher in Vue d'Afrique avec Joël. Bonjour pour Joël.
Bonjour Thami. Bonjour à tous les auditeurs de Channel Africa. Alors sur Vue d'Afrique, il sera question aujourd'hui du Burkina Faso. On parlera de la libération de plusieurs personnes enlevées par les autorités. On parlera également de l'appel qui a accéléré l'accès aux innovations en matière de prévention et de traitement longue durée du VIH, mais également du Gabon où la bataille de succession au parti démocratique gabonais fait rage. Restez connectés. Merci Thami.
Restez connectés. Vue d'Afrique coming up. And that's how we bring Africa in Business to an end. Thank you to our entire team. From the news desk, Joala Netula Ngwape. Economics desk, Nolutando Butelezi. And for the business of sport, Figile Lingwati. Our producer, Mabu Bulok, our technical operator, Katuma Dava. And on social media, Nomalanga Butelezi. I am Thami Ngubeni. This has been Africa in Business for Channel Africa.
d'Afrique, un magazine des actualités en français sur Channel Africa. Rendez-vous du lundi au vendredi à 16h, temps universel. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Bonjour à tous et merci pour votre fidélité à Vue d'Afrique, le magazine d'actualité africaine en langue française. Nous émettons depuis nos studios d'Auckland Park de Johannesburg en Afrique du Sud et je suis Joël Mouteba à la présentation. Kato assure la mise en onde de cette édition d'information dont voici tout de suite les grands titres. Au Burkina Faso, libération de plusieurs personnes enlevées par les autorités. Un appel à accélérer l'accès aux innovations en matière de prévention et de traitement longue durée du VIH lors de l'ouverture de la 13e conférence de l'IAS au Rwanda. Et enfin, pour les grands titres d'aujourd'hui au Gabon, bataille de succession au Parti démocratique gabonais de l'ancien président Ali Bongo. Voilà donc ces quelques titres qui vous seront développés, ce après le bulletin d'information que nous présente Joël Kabongo. Bonjour Kabongo.
Bonjour Joël.
SABC, actualité. La perspective africaine.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Le gouvernement nigérian a déclaré ce mardi 15 juillet pour jour férié en l'honneur de l'ancien président nigérian Muhammadu Buhari.